Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jonathan Lee Walton. I am the Dean of Wake Forest University School of Divinity. And along with Julian Wright, I also have the privilege of being the co-chairs of the North Carolina Faith and Justice Alliance. So on behalf of Chief Justice Cheri Beasley and the entire Alliance, we would like to welcome you today to this public convening. Of course, we realize that we're all growing accustomed to meetings and gatherings different than anything we've ever experienced. Our nation is different. We're different. We're mourning so many lives lost due to an international pandemic, while fighting the long battle against injustice in this nation that COVID-19 continues to exacerbate. Nevertheless, this is why the work of the Faith and Justice Alliance is so important. We are committed to justice, compassion, and establishing structures in our society to facilitate hope and healing. Evil and injustice, pain and suffering in our world will not cease. So neither shall we. We will continue this work. And we're so glad to have you join us and be a part of it. So at this time, I present to you Chief Justice Cheri Beasley.
Thank you so much, Dean Walton. I am so grateful to you and to Julian Wright for your willingness to co-chair the Faith and Justice Alliance. I'm very grateful to Jennifer Lechner and to Jared Smith for all of their hard work. And I really do appreciate all of you for being here this afternoon, taking your time out to understand more about our Faith and Justice Alliance. And I hope that we can get some commitments from you to be partners in this really important work. I would like to acknowledge our elected officials who are in attendance. We have Justice Anita Earls, who is on the Supreme Court of North Carolina and the co-chair to the governor's task force on racial justice in the criminal justice system. Judge Laura Covich, who is a Superior Court judge in Guilford County. Judge Susan Dotson Smith is a district court judge in Buncombe County. Senator Valerie Foushee, Representative Joe John, who is the chair of the Courts Commission, and Representative Vernetta Alston from Durham. We're delighted to have you all here to be a part of this. I'm really excited about this work. We came to know about the Faith and Justice Alliance after one of the co-chairs, Julian Wright, attended a seminar with the Equal Justice conference, and he learned about the Tennessee Faith and Justice Alliance at this conference. And once Julian reported and told us more, we just knew we had to know more. And so Julian, Jennifer, Director McKinley Wooten of the AOC, and I traveled to Knoxville, Tennessee to meet with the leaders of the Alliance there. Really had a wonderful meeting. The justice there, Justice Clark, came to the from the Tennessee Supreme Court, came to North Carolina virtually to meet with us on our alliance. And I'm really excited that we have decided to do this. This is indeed really very meaningful work. There is absolutely no way that we could have known that we would be exactly where we are in this world. I'm excited about the fact that we have an opportunity to help people who are not represented by a lawyer to navigate through our legal system. We know that roughly 55% of the people who come to our courts are not represented by a lawyer and will never be able to hire a lawyer. And I think it's also important for us to work to restore trust and confidence in our courts and the legal system. We are in the midst of a pandemic, and so much of that really is compounded by heightened racial tensions in North Carolina and around the nation. And little did we know a year ago or so, when we thought about implementing the Faith and Justice Alliance, that we would be at a place where we really do need the intersection of faith and law and justice. So the timing of all this is really pretty awesome. You will hear more about our work with the Equal Access to Justice Commission on driver's license restoration. We're excited about the fact that the Alliance will be a part of helping to teach clergy to be able to identify legal issues and then to be able to refer folks who are in need to legal resources at no cost to them. I'm excited about the fact that faith organizations and places of worship will be able to host legal clinics as well. So we are really excited about assembling this statewide interfaith steering committee who has come together and helped us think through what kind of needs there might be and how we can best address those. And this really is an interfaith alliance. We don't ascribe to a particular faith tradition in the alliance. We really do welcome and intend to serve all who are in need. I'm excited about the fact that we have the faith community coming together with legal communities in a really important way to remove barriers from both legal education and legal services to be provided to those who are in need. We have launched a monthly distribution list which shares pro bono and other legal resources. And to receive this, to be on the distribution list, you may sign up at ncfaithandjustice.org. Some of the information that's been distributed previously, it has been resources around disaster preparedness, driver's license restoration eligibility, and small business and nonprofit legal assistance through this COVID-19 pandemic. In the months to come, we look forward to partnering with Legal Aid of North Carolina to train clergy and other faith leaders to spot legal issues and to connect those folks with legal assistance. We will continue to survey faith communities to learn more about what the legal needs are to make sure that we are being the right kind of assistance to you as faith leaders as well as to the people in your congregations. We are excited about the fact that the Equal Access to Justice Commission was really formed to support the legal aid providers. And I'm really excited about the fact that we have an opportunity to provide those legal services directly to people in need by leveraging the power and connectedness of faith communities. So I really look forward to meeting with all of you, and I look forward to you being a part of the work of Faith and Justice Alliance. I thank everyone for attending here today, and I know once you hear these robust presentations about the possibilities of offerings for your communities that you will be eager to be engaged. So thank you so much for being here. I will now turn it over to Tommy Holderness of Legal Aid of North Carolina.
Thank you, Justice Beasley. Really glad to be here and appreciate your inviting Legal Aid to be a part of this group and speak today. For those of you that don't know, Legal Aid is a statewide nonprofit law firm. And so if people qualify for our assistance, we are free. We don't charge our clients anything. There are certain income levels that a person can't be above or in order to qualify. But there are a lot of people in North Carolina, unfortunately, that do qualify. And we do a lot of work in landlord-tenant. We do a lot of work in domestic violence. And we do some consumer and foreclosure work as well, and disaster recovery relief. We've got, I think, 19 offices around the state. So, we're better at getting into court when we're actually in the county, but some of these remote counties, they cover numerous counties. I'm in Charlotte. I'm the director of the housing project in Charlotte. And so I focus exclusively on landlord-tenant law. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. You've probably or maybe heard of the CDC order and the CDC moratorium, the way that's being reported. I wish it were that easy, that it was just a moratorium on evictions and that evictions weren't happening through the end of the year. But unfortunately, that's not true. And maybe even just as unfortunate, I think a lot of people, a lot of tenants are hearing it and believing that it's a moratorium and thinking they can't be evicted to the end of the year. And if there's one thing that I want you to take away from today is that this moratorium, this order does protect some people, but the tenants have to do something. It is not just a blanket, evictions aren't going to go forward anymore. Evictions are going forward. There's just some protection out there for tenants that do something. And I'm going to talk to you today about what they have to do in order to get this protection and when it can apply, because unfortunately, it doesn't apply to everybody. It does apply to non-payment cases. In North Carolina, there are a couple ways, reasons people can be evicted. One is for certain criminal conduct. That's a pretty small percentage of cases. One is if people hold over after a lease ends, and that one, more of those happen. But the biggest, and then one is if you breach your lease because, like, say you're not supposed to have a pet, but you have a dog, they can kick you out for that. And the moratorium really doesn't apply to any of those. The moratorium just applies if you have not paid your rent, which, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, that's what the vast majority of people get evicted for. So the good news is that the moratorium can help the vast majority of people. But it doesn't apply unless the tenant fills out a declaration and signs it and gives it to the landlord. And then even if the tenant does that, the landlord, depending on who they are and how much they know about the law or how much they honor the law, they might still go forward. And so the tenant still has to go to the courthouse and give this and point this out to the judge of, Judge, look, I've done the CDC declaration. They shouldn't be able to evict me until the 2021. The moratorium runs through the end of the year. And so they've got to show up, because if they don't show up, the judge has no idea that they have filed this. And it sounds simple, and it is, except for the declaration not only contains some assertions about what they have done, I mean, who they are and their situation, but it also makes representations about what they've done. And so there's certain things that the tenants have to do to be able to honestly sign this declaration and get the protection. And before I get into what those are, we tell people when you're doing these declarations, and and by the way, the CDC order and the instructions are on the CDC's website. They'll be on this website soon, but they're not there yet. But the CDC has the form and a draft declaration there. And we tell people, do 2 copies of it. It's best to hand deliver it to an office. If you can't hand deliver it to somebody, put it in a Dropbox or text it or email and try to get a response. But you don't just put it in the mail, especially the mail these days, because you want to make sure it's got to be received. And then keep a copy for yourself so that when you go to the court, you can show the judge, this is what I gave them. And I tell people, note on there the date and time when you gave it to them and how, so that you can remember and tell the judge the specifics. All right, so what does it have to say? It has to say that they've used their best effort to obtain government assistance to pay their back rent. It doesn't define what best efforts are, and that's going to vary depending on the person and how much they know and how much they can do and how much they've got going on in their life. It also will depend in some part on where they live. There's government assistance available throughout the state, but it varies depending on what county you're in. There are different programs right now that are helping pay rent, and they're being administered by different organizations. And so everybody should be dialing 211 at a minimum, but the rest of it depends on where you are and what government assistance is available for you. It doesn't say you have to get it. It just says you have to use your best efforts to try to get it. And so that's really important for people to try to do anyway, because the CDC declaration doesn't forgive the debt. So even if this applies to people and they don't have to, and they can't get evicted until the new year, in January, there's going to be a reckoning unless there's been some new help coming out, and people are going to owe a lot of money. So it's a good idea for people to use this, try to access this financial assistance and get it so they don't owe as much, hopefully nothing, by the time the new year comes out. So they've got to use their best efforts. And again, some people are going to need assistance and help in figuring out what that means, because I can see a lot of people just reading that and having no idea what to do. And then they sign it, maybe without doing anything. And then they might be subject to examination by a landlord or a judge saying, all right, you said you used your best efforts. What did you do? And if they say nothing, that's not going to look very good. And there's some people out there that think that landlords and judges should be able to cross-examine the tenants about the veracity of the declaration. And if it's not true, ignore it. And there are also big criminal penalties if people sign this thing falsely. So that's one of the 2 big things that tenants need to do in order to be able to sign this honestly. The second thing they need to be able to do is they're supposed to have made their best efforts to make partial payments given their circumstances. And that's a tricky one because, if you can't do you make your car payment so you don't lose your job, or do you buy food for your kids? Or, and we tell people you don't have to go hungry or get fired or have your utilities cut off. But if, in case you're going to get cross-examined in court about this, about your, discretionary expenditures, I wouldn't be buying new clothes or, buying things that don't look absolutely critical. And I'd offer something to my landlord. Most landlords aren't going to take a partial payment, but I would at least offer something. I'd offer $10, I'd offer $20, I'd offer something. And then if they tell you they won't take it, hallelujah. But at least give them that, at least give them some good faith effort. Because again, if a judge says to you, what have you done? What payments have you offered? And you say nothing, let's say you, the tenant, then that's potentially a tough spot because the judge might be skeptical that you don't have $5. The tenant doesn't have $5 or $10 to offer their landlord. So that's the second big thing. There are other things in the declaration that you have to be able to say honestly, that such as you make less than $99,000 a year, which I suspect everybody will, that you'd be homeless if you get evicted. And I think those things will be relatively easy for people to say truthfully, but people need to understand it and read it so that they can say it truthfully. And then the last thing I want to say is that there are a lot of opinions. This thing's changing daily. There's a lawsuit in the state of Georgia to challenge it. The CDC order, the constitutionality of it. The CDC's just filed a brief. There's some people that think this just stops the writ, the last process in the eviction. Other people think it really stops the whole process. Unfortunately, it's not being applied evenly across the state. Some magistrates are ignoring it. Some are continuing cases. Some are dismissing cases. And that's really a problem. But for now, just realize that depending on where your people live and what they do, that this is a huge potential benefit to them through the end of the year, and that they can't rely on evictions just not happening because they are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tommy, for those remarks. And we're going to come back to you after we get through the rest of the presentations for some further questions. Now I'm going to turn it over to Lee LeClaire and District Attorney Dixon. Lee, I believe you're up first.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I had a few issues with the unmute. So thank you so much for having us today. District Attorney Dixon and I are really excited to provide some updates on the driver's license restoration project and the NC Fairchance website. And I'm going to actually have District Attorney Dixon start, and I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. And again, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to work together, both the faith and the justice community, to seek out and work towards social justice. As of 2018, there were 1,225,000 people with active driver's license suspensions in North Carolina relating to failure to pay, traffic fines, court costs, and failure to appear in court for traffic offenses. There were over 800,000 who just had violations for failure to pay, failure to appear, and over 250,000 for failure to pay, and about 135,000 for both. And these suspensions constitute about 15% of all adult drivers in the state of North Carolina. According to data from the Administrative Office of the Courts, when a traffic court debt is not paid within a year, it is likely not to ever be paid. The average length of time for a license suspension for failure to appear or failure to pay is over 8.5 years. And the median length is about 6 years. Driver's license suspensions for failure to pay have a profound negative impact on entire families. For instance, the loss of a license can result in loss of employment, high transportation costs and commuting times, less access to medical services, and of course, criminal justice involvement. Statewide, African Americans have active suspensions for unpaid traffic court fines and fees at a rate of 4 times higher than white non-Hispanic drivers. And that can result in catastrophic racial disparities, resulting in households of color being disproportionately exposed to and severely impacted by traffic debt. Long-term suspensions disproportionately impact people of color. Now, this is a collaborative effort. In order to get to mass relief debt remittance, it requires several groups. First, you would need a district attorney who's willing to partner and to back these motions for relief. And then you have to utilize the data from the Office of the Courts to identify who qualifies based on the DA's criteria, and pro bono attorneys to screen records, prepare motions, and draft advice letters. But there are two other parties that we really need that I did not include here. One, you have to have a judge who's willing to do it. In our case here in Pitt County, it was Judge Gwen Hilburn. And secondly, you have to have a clerk to participate. And they really do the heavy lifting on the back end. And again, here in Pitt County, that was Ms. Sarah Beth Rhodes. This spring, the Pitt County District Attorney's Office motioned the court to remit court costs and fines for over 4,285 traffic cases that had been causing long-term indefinite driver's license suspensions for over 3,200 people.
Thank you so much, District Attorney Dixon.
Thank you.
So, as District Attorney Dixon mentioned, our project is really focused on assisting people who have an indefinite license suspension due to unpaid fines and fees. And the strategy of relief here is to partner with district attorneys such as District Attorney Dixon, who are willing to motion the court on behalf of individuals who have unpaid fines and fees. And then we at the commission offer technical assistance and planning assistance to each jurisdiction who's willing to do that. We are really lucky that this project is gaining support across the state. So far, district attorneys in Pitt, Durham, Vance, and Mecklenburg counties have submitted these motions to remit on behalf of thousands of people. In 2019, we saw that $2.57 million in traffic court debt was eliminated in the counties mentioned here. And I think really taking a cue from District Attorney Dixon's leadership in Pitt County, we have district attorneys in Buncombe County, Guilford, New Hanover, Pender, Caswell and Randolph, Robeson, and then Franklin, Granville, Person, Vance, and Warren, who have committed to mass relief debt remittance. And District Attorney Dixon didn't mention this, but we had been working with him and with the clerk's office in Pitt County and with the judiciary in Pitt County for months and months planning for driver's license restoration work, and then COVID hit. And we were not sure what was going to happen given just the lack of resources and all the other challenges that brought. And it was really under District Attorney Dixon's leadership and with the support of the clerk's office there that they were able
All right, I think we lost Lee's connection there.
Oh, sorry.
You
That
lost
person.
me for a minute there, Lee. I just wanted to let you know that.
Oh, thank you. Am I okay now?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay, sorry. So when you have community members that may qualify for driver's license restoration and debt remittance relief, we have launched a website, ncfairchance.org. And on that website, there's some different functionality that's available. One of the things that an individual can do is click on Restore Your Driver's License, and they can see whether they have received debt forgiveness in one of the counties that has already participated in the mass relief program. Whether or not a person has received that relief, they can also request that a pro bono volunteer attorney review their DMV record and prepare an advice letter tailored to their record that lets that person know what is on their record leading to a suspension. And then the other thing that we're really excited to be working on and getting ready to launch is this second portion of the website, removing charges from one's criminal record. And so utilizing our excitement in this opportunity that the Second Chance Act is now providing, we are creating a tool that would allow people to go onto the website and draft an expungement petition for any cases that qualify. And then this website will also walk them through the process of filing that petition themselves. And this last slide, which you all will have access to, has some resources from different areas in the state for people that you may know who have driver's license restoration needs. One is the website that I just mentioned, ncfairchance.org, as well as the Durham Expunction and Restoration Program for people who are living in or near Durham. Legal Aid of North Carolina, both through their central intake unit and through the Durham office. Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy, the Blanchard Community Law Clinic at Campbell School of Law, and then the North Carolina Justice Center, which is primarily focused on assisting with policy, advocacy, and education around this really important issue. Thank you so much, and I'll end there.
Thank you, Lee. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be coming back to you and District Attorney Dixon for some questions. And now I will call on Jennifer Simmons to talk to us about eCourt's Guide and File service.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's my great pleasure to be with you all today to talk about the eCourt's first public initiative. We are so excited about the court system's effort to modernize their computer system, which will improve the use experience for those people who do have to engage with the court system from a wide variety of different angles, whether they're attorneys or the public. And so this system, the Guide and File system, is the first step along that pathway. You have heard Chief Justice Beasley today speak eloquently about the problem of so many people in our state that are unable to afford an attorney. And this Guide and File system is a technological service available from North Carolina's Administrative Office of the Courts to address exactly that situation where a person cannot afford or does not have access to an attorney but does actually have a legal problem that they need to solve. A user answers simple questions about their situation to generate court documents. And for now, they're then able to print those documents and file them just as anyone else would who's perhaps used an attorney or has other way to go about this. And in the future, people using this system will be able to actually e-file their documents with the court once that goes live in their part of the state. I said that people will answer simple questions about that situation, and I'm illustrating that on this slide. I've picked a page somewhat arbitrarily from an interview that helps a person, a tenant who is facing eviction, to prepare and answer and counterclaims for their summary ejectment case. So on this page, I'm illustrating that the questions that are asked are really simple questions that a person living through the situation is going to be able to answer easily without a lot of difficulty understanding. So for example, in this page, the user has already indicated that their court papers were filed in Burke County. So it asks, is this actually the county where your home is located? It goes on to ask, are you renting your home, buying your home, or is the person, again, they've already given the name of the defendant in that case, or rather the plaintiff, the landlord in that case, is Larry landlord your landlord? It asks, is the home you're rented really located at this address? A simple yes or no question. And then is this a house, apartment, mobile home, or something else? So you can see these questions are not complicated and should not be intimidating to a user to actually answer. And in the end, after they actually get through answering those questions, the software produces a pleading that is both legally appropriate and tailored to their precise situation. It uses templates that are created by experts in the field or forms that have already been adopted and used by the Administrative Office of the Courts for these case types. The final forms in the case in the interview after it's generated is ready to print for the user to review it, make sure that the information is all correct and what they intend, and then to file it through the court system. Also, each interview includes detailed instructions with more information about the particular case type. So this really is designed to solve the situation where you've gone through, you've answered the simple questions, you have a pleading that looks good and contains correct information. What next? Now that you've printed it out and are holding it, what do you actually do? And so this document includes information as detailed as how many copies you need to take with you when you go to the courthouse. It also includes the filing fees, if there are any, or other information that you may need to know about potentially serving, getting it to the other party in your case. So this is a very useful document that we want every single user of the system to download and read closely, because it's going to be the extra help that's going to help them get through this to accomplish their legal goal, or at least to have the day in court to talk about their legal goal. So the first rounds of offerings of this technological solution, GuidandFile, went live at the end of August. The system offered an ambitious initial slate of case types, and in fact, this list is expected to grow over time. But for now, the case types that you'll find in GuidandFile are absolute divorce, adult name change, domestic violence protective orders, motion to claim exempt property, petition to proceed as an indigent, certain types of probate cases, such as years allowance, summary administration, and small estate administration, the ability to file a small claims case for money owed or for repossession of a personal property, or summary ejectment matters, a complaint, an answer and counterclaim, or an appeal to district court after a small claims hearing. And how do you find this service? It's online at the court system's website. You can go to nccourts.gov/services, or if it's easier to remember, a user can go to ncguidandfile.com and find all of the interviews I just mentioned. And last but hardly least, we are asking today for your help. We need you to help us find the people that actually need this resource, because we want people that need the help to accomplish these legal goals to find this resource at the right time. We have electronic flyers that you would be able to put on your website. We have print it yourself materials to create a flyer or business cards if that's easier to distribute. We also have fact sheets you could print if someone wants more detailed information about GuidandFile system. These resources will all be included in the follow-up email you'll get after this event, and also on the Faith and Justice Alliance's website in the future. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about GuidandFile today, and we'll turn it back over to you, Jennifer, for whatever's next in the system, in the agenda today.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. While I've got you, one of our questions is there a plan to have GuidandFile interviews and these materials available in other languages?
We hope that may be an eventual goal. Right now, they are available only in English. Again, these only launched just about a month ago. And so I believe that's something the branch is considering and hopes to expand in the future.
Great, thank you. So I've gotten several questions here, and we'll start with Tommy. And this is less of a question, I think, and more of a public service announcement. Tommy, you wanted to talk to folks about resources that are available through the state and not having folks miss out on those.
Yeah, thank you. So the legislature authorized and the governor signed a $335 payment, one-time payment to families with who were full-time residents of North Carolina in 2019, who have a qualifying child, so 16 or younger at the end of last year, and who are below a certain income threshold. It's either $400,000 or $440,000. It's a lot. The program is being administered by the North Carolina Department of Revenue. And so if people filed a tax return last year, they're going to automatically get their money. That's great. I'm not worried about those people. What I'm worried about is the people who didn't have to file a tax return last year. They have to apply. So for our poorest citizens, the ones that are making less than $10,000 individually or $20,000 as a couple, if they don't know of this program and they don't apply, they're not going to get their money. And they're the ones that need it more than anybody. And unfortunately, it's a tight deadline. It's next Thursday. So this program just came out and they put like a month deadline on it. It's not hard to apply. You need social security numbers. You got to go to the DOR's website. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't have access to internet access. But if you can spread the word that if people didn't file tax returns last year, they didn't have to for North Carolina for 2019, and they have a child 16 or younger, then they should go to the DOR website by next Thursday and apply for this money, because it's a one-time $335 payment per family, not per child. Ostensibly, it's supposed to be, the purpose of it was for remote learning expenses, but it doesn't have to be used for that. It's not like you got to turn in a bill. But I'm afraid that there are a couple 100,000 people across the state maybe that qualify for this and really need it and don't know about it. So North Carolina Department of Revenue's website is where people need to go. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that, Tommy. And we'll include a link to that in the materials that we send out after this meeting to make sure that folks are taking advantage of that funding. Jennifer, I've got another question for you. Is there a cost to use Guide and File?
Thanks for that question. No, there is no cost. Guide and File is a free service available on the Administrative Office of the Court's website or at ncguideandfile.com. And that is a free service. If you print and are ready to file a court pleading or a court document, there may be a cost to file, but we have all of that spelled out in great detail on the next steps documents or the instructions. And if you are unable to afford the cost of filing, we've also got the ability to petition the court where it's allowed for waiver of that cost also. So that's all integrated into Guide and File, and the interview does lead you very pretty easily through those questions. Thank you.
Lee, the next question is for you. You noted the counties that have signed on to this. What if folks who are joining us today or members of their congregations, parishioners have unpaid fees and fines in a county that hasn't participated? What can they do?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jennifer. If you go to the ncfairchance.org website and search your name, you can also request to be notified when a particular county that you're interested in comes on board, and you'll receive a text message of notification. I also just forgot to mention that we are speaking with the Conference of District Attorneys on Friday about this project, and so we are really excited for the expansion ahead.
Yes, we are tomorrow.
Right, that's right, that's tomorrow.
Tommy, can you tell us a little bit about other resources that are available through Legal Aid of North Carolina? I know that you have a number of self-help resources.
We do. There are self-help resources on Legal Aid's website, so people can go there. And there's if you don't have a local office, and most local offices now aren't open because people are working remotely given the virus, there's a central number where people can call, and that is the place to start for most people across the state. So even if we're not in a particular county or don't have an office there, don't let that keep you from calling the central intake number, and people can give you advice there. And then if appropriate, they'll refer you to one of the local offices. But like I say, it's domestic violence, it's consumer fraud, it's foreclosure help, disaster recovery relief, and landlord tenant. Those are the 5 major areas.
Thank you for that. And that is also available on the NC Faith and Justice website. We've got more information and links there as well. Lee, I've got another question for you. Can you describe in a little more detail the process for getting a free advice letter regarding a driver's license suspension? How do people access that free help?
Sure. So it's pretty simple, we hope. You just go to that ncfairchance.org website. First, click on Restore Your Driver's License, and you'll be asked to put in your name and date of birth. And that's so that you can search the system and just see whether you have already received some sort of financial relief from the program. And then you will also be asked whether you want to request an advice letter. You'll put in either your email address or your physical mailing address, whichever way you prefer to receive the advice letter. And you'll also have to re-enter your date of birth. And then we will take it from there, ordering your DMV record and preparing that letter.
Great, thank you for that. We hope that people really will take advantage of that. We have a virtual army of pro bono attorneys who want to assist with these advice letters. And so we need folks to sign up to get them. Jennifer, this next question is for you. Do you plan to add to the case types for Guide and File?
Yes, this was only the initial round of case types that were made available. And there has been an effort to select case types that are going to be useful to the community. So thinking of folks that are unable to afford attorneys or lack access to attorneys in some way, and really trying to target it to those people. So this first round of case types was designed with that in mind, as well as those that get a lot of use in the court system. And the next round of case types is hoping to expand on that. I believe there's a real effort to try to bring some relief to those who have been formerly involved with the criminal justice system through this next round. But we don't have a go live date. As you can imagine, these are quite complex to put together. We involve experts into the field for every single one to make sure that these are not just legally accurate, but also really the very best that can be offered to the North Carolina community. Thank you for that question.
Thanks. Let's see here. Lee, you mentioned that we're meeting tomorrow with the Conference of District Attorneys. How can folks joining us today help spread the word about this project, either working through district attorneys or otherwise?
Yeah, so as I'm sure you could hear from our description of the project, this is really change at that is starting at a local level and in a particular district. And so every community is a little bit different. Every relationship is different. And so those relationships that you do have in your community, we really appreciate you utilizing and either speaking directly to your district attorney about this need, or to other advocacy groups, faith-based groups, and others in your community. And I don't know, District Attorney Dixon, if you have some other thoughts about that and how people can get involved.
I would suggest that you reach out to your locally elected district attorney, speak with her or him, and express what your desires are and what you'd like to have accomplished in your community.
Great, thank you both for that. Tommy, we've gotten a couple of questions about materials, resources available in other languages. Does Legal Aid of North Carolina offer other languages?
Yeah, we do. So there are a couple ways that we have a lot of things in Spanish. I don't know that we have other forms pre-printed or pre-made that aren't in Spanish, but I know we have a lot of things in Spanish. And then if we get a client who speaks some other language, we have services available to us to translate anything. I mean, I've had deaf clients, and I've had to make some call and have somebody. I don't know how it works, but it was magic. But the bottom line is, if it's another language or no language at all, we can still help people. And then, like I say, if there's Spanish documents, I know we have a fair amount, not necessarily all of them in Spanish. I did forget, I was sitting there thinking, what other service areas do we help people in? And because I just do housing, I forget, but so that my colleagues don't kill me. We also help with expungements, employment, and benefit work. So there are some other things. I'm probably still forgetting one, but those are the big ones.
That's great. Thank you for that. Jennifer, can you tell us, how can a person know if they should or should not use the Guide and File system?
That's a really great question. We think that it's available there for everybody, but we don't want someone that may have legal implications beyond the scope of an interview to use a particular interview. We want the forms that are created to be accurate and correct for each situation. So rest assured though, that that's actually not a problem. We have built into each interview a series of questions that will help a person make the decision for themselves about whether they should proceed with going forth and using the interview, or providing information if they answer a question in a certain way, that perhaps they're not going to get the relief they're seeking. So one easy example, in the divorce interview, in North Carolina, you have to be separated for at least, it's 12 months and a day. It's not even just a year. You have to be separated more than a year in order to qualify for a divorce. So we ask questions about that. And if you say that you've been separated from your spouse for less than a year, it's not to say that you can't go forward and file it, but it does provide you information that you're not likely to get the relief you're seeking based on the answers to your questions. So that's just one small example of the sort of screening the technology allows for each person to do for themselves about whether to proceed or not to proceed with an interview, and to understand the implications of moving forward based on the particular answers they give. So thank you again for that great question.
Great, thanks. I've gotten one question in the chat about, are we going to have this recording available? Yes, we are. And other materials available at ncfaithandjustice.org. And be sure to check that out after this event. And so you can share this with others. We'll also include links to various resources, and we will be emailing those out as well. So thank you all for the terrific questions here. We've got one comment. It's also worth mentioning that litigants have a right to linguistic access for court proceedings in all case types. So those are also available. If you've got something proceeding in court, you do have a right to have language access there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Julian Wright, our co-chair of the Faith and Justice Alliance, to close us out.
Jennifer, thank you so much, and thanks to folks for participating. First, I'll make the observation that folks who've participated today are going to be getting a follow-up email that'll provide you the opportunity to get some more information, also provide you the opportunity to make comments or ask questions about the Faith and Justice Alliance's work. So we would urge you to take advantage of that. You can also go into the chat section, the chat feature now, and there's a link that's being provided that can also get you access to that same type of opportunity. So making comments about today's presentation, making comments about the Faith and Justice Alliance and its work, or asking questions, please feel free to do that. As part of closing us down today, I especially want to thank Chief Justice Sherry Beasley for her leadership of the Alliance, for her guiding of this particular event, and for the excellent work that she does. Thank you. I also thank my co-chair of the steering committee for the Alliance, Dean Jonathan Walton at Wake Forest. Go Deacs. And thank him for his work and participation today. Also thanks to Jennifer Lechner and Jared Smith and the other staff people at the North Carolina Equal Access to Justice Commission who continue to animate a lot of the work that the Faith and Justice Alliance is undertaking. And thanks especially today to our panelists. Thank you both for your presentations today and for the work that you do in these areas. I will close well just with the following. In the Hebrew Bible, Isaiah the prophet tells us to learn to do well, to seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. That's the Hebrew tradition. In the Quran, I like how Prophet Muhammad puts it. Whoever witnesses something evil, let him change it with his hand. If he is unable to do so, then with his voice. If he is unable to do so, then with his heart. But this, the heart, is the weakest form of the faith. And in my own tradition, the Christian New Testament tradition, there's a verse very specific about what you've done unto the least of these, my brethren, so you've done it unto me, says God the Creator and God the Redeemer. So I think I can also quote scripture and traditions from other religious faiths and traditions around the world that all make the same point, that when you see something wrong, you're supposed to do something about it. And what we do for the least of these, what we do for the most oppressed, that's what our Creator, our Redeemer, our Sustainer whatever identity we ascribe, that's what's expected of us as believers. And doing justice is what's expected, I hope, of those of us who are North Carolina lawyers or lawyers practicing in this part of the world. So thank you for your interest in the Faith and Justice Alliance, for the work that we do. We're excited about this opportunity. We look forward to building on these efforts that you've heard about today as the Alliance moves forward. But we thank you especially, each of you who's participated with us today, who's given up some of your afternoon on what, at least in Charlotte, is a beautiful day, looking out my window. So thank you so much for being here. And again, thank you for your participation. And we look forward to hearing back from you and look forward to your continued cooperation in the work of the North Carolina Faith and Justice Alliance. Thank you.